Factoring by greatest common factor. So to factor by greatest common factor, we factor each term, circle common factors between all terms, and multiply the common factors together. So if we're finding the greatest common factor of these, what we're going to do is we're going to factor each of them first. So this is 4 times t cubed, this is 2 times 2, and that's t times t times t. 20t squared is 20 times t squared, which is 4 times 5, 2 times 2, and that's t times t. Negative 8t is negative 1, 8, and t, and 8 is 4 times 2, which is 2 times 2. All right, so what's in common between all of these? Well, they all have a 2. What else? Do they all have another 2? Yes, they do. So let me circle a second set of 2's. Do they all have a t? Yes, they all have a t. Do they all have another t? No. Do they all have a 5? No. Do they all have another 2? No. So what we're left with is each of them had a 2, a 2, and a t. So 2 times 2 times t is the greatest common factor. Simplifying that gives us 4t is our answer. So we're going to be factoring using GCF. So that's one of our methods of factoring a polynomial. For trinomials, we'll sometimes split the linear term to multiply to the goal, and sometimes we'll have to check for difference of squares. But we always factor by GCF first. We're going to focus on step 1 in this video. So what we're doing is we're finding the greatest common factor of all terms, divide each term by the greatest common factor, and write it outside the parentheses so that it looks like a distribution problem. So here, we said, okay, the greatest common factor was 4t. So we know that it will be 4t. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide each of these by 4t. So divide that by 4t, divide that by 4t, divide that by 4t. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. T cubed divided by t is t squared. Now 20 divided by 4 is 5. T squared divided by t is t. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. T divided by t is 1. So that is our factored form. Here, what is the greatest common factor? You might be able to see it, but just in case you don't, this is negative 1 times 5 times n squared, and n squared is n times n. 15 is negative 1 times 5 times 3. So they all have a negative 1, and they also all have a 5. So what I'm going to say is the greatest common factor is going to be negative 5. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide each of those by negative 5. Now you probably could see from this original thing, oh, they're both those by negative 5. But if you don't know what they're divisible by, then that's one way of checking. So this will be our factored form. Note that if I told you to simplify, it's the opposite of factoring. It'd be distributing the negative 5 back in. All right, so all of these are divisible by 4. Are they divisible by 8? No. Are they divisible by k? Yes. The greatest number of k's in any of these is k. So again, this one will be 4k. So now I'm going to divide each of these by 4k. Divide by 4k. Divide by 4k. This gives us negative 10. We're dividing to get 8k to the 4th. 8 divided by 4 is 2. K squared divided by k is k. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. K divided by k is 1. So that is our factored form. I believe this is the last one. Yes. So this one, it may be a little harder to see. Let's see. They're all divisible by 2. We see that. And if we're wrong, if we pick a number that's too big, then we'll get a fraction, and then we'll start over. Or if we get a number that's too small, then we'll see, oh, there's still a common factor between all of them. So here I see a 2. These have x's in common, but this doesn't. These have y's in common, and this has an extra y, so we're going to say 2y is our greatest common factor. I think I'm going to factor out the negative as well. That means that when we end up we'll have a negative over here. That's all allowed. So I'm going to divide them all by negative 2y, divide by negative 2y, divide by negative 2y. So negative 8 divided by negative 2 is 4, y divided by y is 1, x to the fourth. Negative 14 divided by negative 2 is positive 7, y divided by y is 1, x squared stays the same. Positive 18 divided by negative 2 is negative 9, y squared divided by y is y. So that is how we factor by greatest common factor.